Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The cranberry sauce was still bubbling on the stove when Darius's phone buzzed for the 7th time that morning. I watched him glance at it through the kitchen doorway, his face lighting up in a way I had not seen in months. Not for me, anyway. "Honey, could you help me move the turkey?" I called out, wrestling with the 20-pound bird that had been roasting since dawn. The kitchen smelled like sage and butter, exactly the way my mother's had when I was Maya's age. I had been up since 5, determined to make this Thanksgiving perfect. "In a minute," he muttered, thumbs flying across his screen. I hefted the turkey myself, feeling the familiar ache in my lower back that reminded me I was not 25 anymore. I was 47, and my husband could not tear himself away from his phone long enough to help with the meal I had spent a week planning. I swallowed the irritation. Today was about family. Langston had driven in from Chicago the night before, handsome in his new suit jacket, but tired around the eyes. His consulting job was demanding, but he had made the effort to be here. Maya arrived that morning with her usual whirlwind energy, arms full of wine bottles and stories about her graduate program. Seeing them both at our dining room table again, laughing and catching up, made every hour of preparation worth it. The dining room looked picture perfect. I used my grandmother's china, the delicate blue pattern that only came out for special occasions. The centerpiece was a cornucopia I had spent 2 hours arranging with miniature pumpkins, autumn leaves, and battery-operated candles that flickered like real flames. Darius walked past it 3 times without a single comment. "Mom, this stuffing is incredible," Langston said, helping himself to a second serving. "Is this the same recipe Grandma used?" "With a few modifications," I said, watching him savor each bite. "I added dried cherries this year." Maya raised her wine glass. "To Mom for pulling off another Thanksgiving miracle." We clinked glasses, and for a moment, everything felt right. This was what I had imagined when I was folding napkins at 6 in the morning, when I was hand-mashing potatoes because they tasted better that way. This warmth, this connection, this sense of belonging. Darius's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, and something in his expression shifted. "Everything okay, Dad?" Maya asked. "Fine," he said quickly, sliding the phone into his pocket. But his leg bounced under the table the way it did when he was anxious. I had been married to this man for 23 years. I knew his tells, the clearing of his throat before he said something difficult, the avoidance of eye contact when he was hiding something, the straightening of his shoulders before a pronouncement he thought was important. He was doing all 3 now. "Actually," Darius said, standing so abruptly his chair scraped the hardwood floor. The sound cut through our conversation like a knife. Langston and Maya looked up, forks halfway to their mouths. He cleared his throat. "I have something to tell everyone." His voice had that forced casualness he used in business meetings. My stomach dropped. "Darius," I said quietly, "can this wait until after dinner?" He did not look at me. "I am selling the house." The words hit the table like a physical blow. Maya's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Langston's fork clattered against his plate. "What?" Maya whispered. Darius was not finished. He looked past us, as if addressing a boardroom instead of his family. "Kiana and the kids need more space. Jalen is 8 now, Micah is 6, and little Zuri just turned 4. They are growing fast, and her apartment is too small." The silence was deafening. I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, the distant hum of the refrigerator, the sound of my heartbeat in my ears. "Kiana." He said her name in our dining room, at our Thanksgiving table, in front of our children. The woman whose existence I had been pretending not to know about for months. Langston's face went pale. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Kiana is my girlfriend," Darius continued, as if discussing the weather. "We have been together for 8 months. She has 3 children from her previous marriage, and they need stability. A real home." Maya made a sound like she had been punched. "Girlfriend." I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap, watching my children's faces crumble. This was how he chose to tell them. Not privately, not gently, not with any consideration for their feelings. Like a business transaction. "The house will sell quickly in this market," Darius went on, oblivious to the devastation. "Kiana found a beautiful place in Decatur with a big backyard and good schools. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. The kids will love it. What about us?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "What about Mom?" Finally, Darius looked at me. There was something almost defiant in his expression, as if he expected me to cry or beg, to give him a reason to paint me as the hysterical wife. Instead, I stood slowly, calmly, and walked to my purse on the kitchen counter. My hands were steady as I retrieved the envelope I had carried for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Or the worst one, which apparently was now. I returned to the table and placed the envelope next to his plate, right on top of the gravy stain he had made during his speech. "Since you are making announcements," I said, meeting his eyes for the first time all day. Then I sat back down, picked up my fork, and took a bite of sweet potato casserole. The envelope sat between us like a loaded weapon, and for the first time since he started talking, Darius looked uncertain. His fingers hovered over the cream-colored paper like it might bite him. The confident man who had just announced the sale of our family home was gone, replaced by someone genuinely afraid. "What is it, Dad?" Langston asked, his eyes never leaving his father's face. There was something different in my son's expression, a hardness I had never seen before. Darius turned the envelope over, examining the seal. I had written his name in my careful cursive, the same handwriting that had signed birthday cards and anniversary notes for over 2 decades. This felt different, final. "Imani what?" he began, but the words died when he met my gaze. I kept my expression serene. Let him wonder. Let him sweat. "Mom, are you okay?" Maya asked, her voice small. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I am fine, sweetheart." And surprisingly, I was. For the first time in months, I felt in control. Darius slipped the envelope into his jacket pocket without opening it. The relief on his face was almost comical, as if postponing the inevitable would make it disappear. But I saw the curiosity eating at him, the way his hand drifted back to his pocket. "Aren't you going to open it?" Langston asked, his tone edged. "Later," Darius mumbled, reaching for his water glass. His throat was dry. The warm conversation at our Thanksgiving table had curdled. Maya kept glancing between her father and me, trying to piece together a puzzle with missing parts. Langston stopped eating entirely, his jaw clenched tight. I continued my meal, savoring each bite. The turkey was perfectly moist. The stuffing had just the right amount of herbs. All those hours of preparation had not been wasted. After all, this meal would be memorable. "So," I said conversationally, cutting another piece of turkey, "how long has Kiana been helping you make decisions about our home?" Darius's fork clattered. "Imani, not now." "When then?" I asked, still calm. "After you pack my belongings? After you change the locks?" Maya's wine glass hit the table harder than she intended. "You are really doing this? You are really leaving Mom for another woman with children?" "It is complicated," Darius said. The classic response of someone who knew he was wrong but could not admit it. "It is not complicated," Langston said evenly. That was when Darius's phone started buzzing. He glanced at the screen, and I saw her name flash across it. Kiana. Even in the middle of destroying his family, she could not leave him alone for one meal. The phone buzzed again and again. "Answer it," I said quietly. "Do not let us stop you from attending to your priorities." He declined the call, flushing. "It is work." Maya actually laughed, but there was no humor in it. On Thanksgiving, at 7 o'clock in the evening, the phone buzzed a 4th time. Darius's leg bounced frantically under the table. "You know what?" Langston stood abruptly, his napkin falling to the floor. "I have lost my appetite." He looked at his father with such disappointment that even I felt it. 23 years of marriage, Dad. And you announce your affair at Thanksgiving like you are discussing quarterly earnings. Langston, you do not understand. "I understand perfectly," he said, his voice controlled. "You decided your happiness mattered more than Mom's dignity." He walked away. We heard his footsteps on the stairs and the firm click of his childhood bedroom door. Maya's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Daddy," she whispered, a name she had not used in years. "How could you do this to us?" For a moment, Darius's mask slipped. Regret flickered across his features. Then the phone buzzed again, and the moment was gone. He answered. "I cannot talk right now," he said in a low voice, turning away. Kiana's voice carried through the speaker, sharp and demanding. We could not make out words, but the tone was clear. He ended the call and turned his phone face down. The silence that followed was absolute. Maya stood carefully. "I think I need some air." She glanced at me. "Mom, do you want help clearing the table?" "That is all right, sweetheart. Go." After she left, it was just Darius and me at the table where we had celebrated birthdays, helped with homework, planned our future. The envelope in his pocket might as well have been ticking. "Imani," he said finally. We need to talk. I looked at him, really looked at him. When had he become such a stranger? No, I said, standing and stacking plates. We really do not. That night, I went to bed early and locked the bedroom door. I could hear Darius pacing downstairs, probably trying to work up the courage to open the envelope. Let him pace. Let him wonder. I slept better than I had in months. The morning after Thanksgiving, I woke to an empty house. Darius had left before dawn. I made coffee in the quiet kitchen, watching steam rise as memories I had been suppressing finally surfaced. It had started in March, such an ordinary Tuesday, when everything began to unravel, though I did not know it then. Darius came home 3 hours late, collar slightly wrinkled, claiming a client meeting had run over. I reheated his dinner, asked about his day, and listened to tired responses. But something felt off. Maybe it was the way he avoided my eyes, or how he showered immediately instead of collapsing on the couch. Late nights became a pattern. Big presentation tomorrow, he would say, grabbing his laptop bag. Do not wait up. The canceled plans followed. Our anniversary dinner at the Magnolia Room, where he had proposed 24 years ago, was postponed because of an emergency. The theater tickets Maya had given us went unused when Darius suddenly had to fly to Denver. Each disappointment came with elaborate apologies. Later never came. Kiana Brooks first appeared as a name in casual conversation. Kiana from accounting thinks we should restructure the quarterly reports. Kiana suggested a new software system. Then I started seeing her in his phone. The first photo was a group shot from an office party I had missed due to the flu. Kiana was petite, standing just close enough to Darius to catch my attention. The second photo made my stomach drop. Darius and Kiana at a coffee shop, her 3 children clustered around them. Her hand rested on his arm while a little girl with pigtails sat on his lap like she belonged there. I found it by accident, scrolling to check the weather when my phone was charging. The photo was dated 2 weeks earlier on a Saturday when Darius had claimed to be playing golf with his college buddy Terrence. Who are these children? I asked that night, showing him the screen. Oh, that is Kiana from work, he said smoothly. She is going through a divorce. Needed someone to talk to. Those are her kids. He took his phone back immediately, his thumb moving to delete the photo. You are helping her with her divorce, I pressed gently. Someone has to, he replied, finality in his tone. The phone calls were harder to ignore. Kiana's name lighting up his screen during dinner, morning coffee, even Langston's graduation ceremony. He would glance, frown, and let it go to voicemail. She is having a rough time, he would say. Probably needs advice. One evening in July, Maya mentioned seeing her father at the park near her apartment. He was with a woman and her kids, she said. They looked like a family. She described Darius pushing a little girl on a swing, Kiana watching him with a private smile. Mom, is everything okay between you and Dad? Everything is fine, I lied. After we hung up, I sat in the dark living room as pieces finally clicked into place. Late nights. Canceled plans. Photos. Now this. My husband playing family with another woman's children, while I sat at home wondering where our marriage had gone. I stopped fighting for his attention and started paying attention instead. I noted inconsistencies in his stories. I documented the changes in our finances, the unexplained withdrawals, the charges from restaurants I had never visited, cash purchases with no explanation. The word downsizing came up in September. The housing market is hot, he said, not looking up from his tablet. Might be smart to downsize while we can get top dollar. I knew then. He was not planning to downsize with me. He was planning to upsize with someone else. But Darius made one crucial mistake. He assumed I would remain the passive, trusting wife who swallowed every lie. He had no idea I had already made an appointment with attorney Malcolm Reed, the best divorce attorney in the state. Malcolm's office smelled like leather and quiet money. I watched him review the folder I brought. Bank statements, credit card bills, photographs printed from social media, a timeline of his absences. Mrs. Bennett, Malcolm said, silver hair catching the afternoon light. Are you certain you want to proceed this way? I need to protect myself and our children, I said, my voice steady. My husband thinks I am naive. I would prefer to keep it that way until I am ready. The financial evidence told a clearer story than any caption. While our own cards maxed out and bills went unpaid, I discovered statements for a credit card I had never signed for in both Darius's name and Kiana's. The charges painted domestic bliss, grocery stores, toy stores, children's clothing. $600 at a place called Little Dreamers Furniture, probably bunk beds. 400 at Princess Palace Boutique, undoubtedly for Zuri. Meanwhile, our mortgage was late twice, and I used my savings to cover the electric bill when Darius claimed his deposit was delayed. Receipts in his jacket pocket filled in the rest. Children's medicine, character bandages, bedtime storybooks, a birthday cake with Happy 4th Birthday Zuri in pink frosting. He was living a full father's life with Kiana's children, while our own adult children wondered why he seemed distant on family calls. I kept everything in a safe deposit box across town. Every Friday, I added to the pile. It felt like preparing for war, which I suppose it was. The breaking point came on our anniversary, October 15th. I had reservations at the Magnolia Room. At 5:30, I checked my makeup one last time. At 6:15, Darius called. Imani, I am sorry, but Kiana is having an emergency. Complete breakdown. I cannot leave her alone with the kids. Can we postpone? I stood in our entryway, dressed up with nowhere to go, married to a man who was somewhere else playing hero. Of course, I said, voice calm as glass. I drove to the Magnolia Room alone, sat at our table for two, and enjoyed the most expensive bottle of wine on the menu. That night, I called Malcolm. It is time, I said simply. The week after Thanksgiving crawled. Darius moved through the house like a ghost, the unopened envelope burning a hole in whatever pocket he chose. I watched him check his jacket, his briefcase, his nightstand drawer. Always making sure it was still there, never brave enough to face it. On Thursday morning, exactly 1 week after his grand announcement, I was making pancakes when I heard his footsteps on the stairs. Darius appeared in the doorway, the envelope clutched in trembling hands. His hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. Imani, he said, voice raw. What is this? I flipped a pancake, not turning around. Open it and find out. The sound of tearing paper filled the kitchen. Then came the long, terrible silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. You transferred the deed. I turned and met his eyes. His face was white. His hands shook so badly the papers rattled. 3 months ago, I said conversationally. Amazing how much paperwork goes unread when you are busy playing house with someone else's family. You set me up, he hissed. You planned this. I protected myself, I said. There is a difference. The house, he stopped, mind calculating. Kiana is expecting. Kiana is expecting a house that was never yours to give. I set down my mug. Funny how that works. His phone rang. Kiana's name flashed. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice falsely cheerful. Hey, babe. I've been thinking about the timeline for the house sale, she said. The kids are excited about their bedrooms. When will we sign the paperwork? Darius looked at me helplessly. Actually, there is a complication, he said. The silence on the other end was dangerous. What kind of complication? It turns out the house is not technically in my name anymore, he said. Imani transferred the deed. I found out today. The explosion that followed was spectacular. Words like betrayed and manipulated and lying snake filled the kitchen through the speaker. So let me get this straight, Kiana said when her voice finally dropped. You promised me and my children a home you never owned. You made me believe we had a future when you were just another cheating husband with no plan. The line went dead. Texts began to arrive in rapid succession. Darius stared at the screen, color draining from his face. 23 years, he said suddenly, voice breaking. 23 years of marriage, and you destroy it with paperwork. I faced him fully for the first time, letting my anger show. I destroyed it? You stood in our dining room and announced you were selling our home for your girlfriend's convenience. But somehow I am the one who destroyed our marriage. He tried calling Langston and Maya that afternoon. Voicemail after voicemail. When Langston finally picked up on the 4th call, their conversation lasted 30 seconds. We are standing with Mom, he said. You made your choice at Thanksgiving. We made ours. Maya's response was even shorter. Do not call me again until you are ready to apologize to Mom. And I mean a real apology. By Saturday, I was hosting my book club brunch in the kitchen Darius had planned to hand over to Kiana. 8 women gathered around the island for fresh fruit, croissants, and the kind of expensive coffee I had been rationing. The laughter felt different, lighter. Imani, you seem so relaxed lately, my friend Denise said, reaching for another strawberry. You are glowing. I looked around at the friends who had stood by me, sitting in the home I had protected. I feel like I finally stopped holding my breath, I said. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday in February, delivered by a courier who looked apologetic about disturbing my morning coffee. Darius had filed first. his final attempt to control a narrative already slipping through his fingers. Malcolm had warned me. "Let him file," he said. "We will be 3 steps ahead with our countersuit." I set the papers on the counter. There would be time to read Darius's version later. Darius moved out in January, taking only his clothes and leaving behind 23 years of shared memories like they belonged to someone else. He rented a small apartment across town, not the sprawling house he had promised Kiana, but something to do while he regrouped. Through Maya, I heard Kiana had given him an ultimatum after their breakup. Prove he could provide the stability she needed or lose her permanently. Spring brought an unexpected development. Maya called one bright morning. "Mom, you are not going to believe this," she said. "Dad is getting remarried to Kiana in June." "Remarried already?" I nearly dropped my mug. "I know. The divorce is not even final. But apparently, Kiana forgave him after he promised they would try for a baby. She wants to give her kids a sibling, and Dad is all in." At 51, Darius was planning to start over completely, to erase his first family and build a new one with a woman 20 years younger. The audacity took my breath away. "Are you invited?" I asked carefully. Maya laughed bitter. "We both are." Langston threw his invitation away. "I might go to watch the spectacle." After we hung up, I sat in my garden and thought. Kiana was 32, young enough to have more children. Why the urgency? It felt desperate, like she wanted to lock Darius down with biological ties before he changed his mind. The answer came in May through a conversation I was not supposed to hear. I spotted Kiana in the pharmacy aisle at the grocery store, talking on her phone in hushed, angry tones. I paused at the vitamins, not proud of the eavesdropping. "The custody agreement requires it," she said. "If I want to relocate the kids out of state, their father needs proof my new husband can provide for additional children. It is a clause about family planning and financial stability." My heart started to race. A fertility test. She needed Darius to prove he could father children. What Kiana did not know, what Darius seemed to have forgotten, was the secret he buried 24 years ago. After Maya's difficult birth, he had secretly been tested because he worried about having more children. The results showed severely compromised fertility. Not impossible, but unlikely without intervention. He never told me, letting me blame myself for our inability to have more children. That night, I called our longtime physician, Dr. Leonard Price. I said, "I need to ask about something confidential regarding my husband's medical history." "Jordan Imani," he corrected himself warmly. "You know I cannot discuss a patient's records." "Hypothetically," I said, "if someone requested old test results for legal purposes, would they still be on file?" A pause. "Hypothetically, medical records are maintained for 30 years. And hypothetically, if someone with legal standing requested those records as part of a divorce proceeding." He let the sentence hang. I understood. The next morning, I called Malcolm with a special request. Within a week, Darius's complete medical history was subpoenaed. Buried in decades of routine checkups was that single test result he had asked to keep confidential. Malcolm's team arranged for the records to be delivered to Darius on his wedding day. Not out of cruelty, but because the timing aligned with Kiana's custody hearing scheduled for Monday. She would need those results as evidence. I spent that Saturday morning in my garden, planting roses where Darius's golf clubs used to sit in the garage. My phone rang at 4:30. Maya's number. "Mom," she said, barely suppressing laughter. "You will not believe what happened. The wedding is off. Kiana found out Dad cannot have kids." She opened medical records that were delivered this morning while she was getting her hair done. By the time Dad got to the venue, she had already left town with the children. I closed my eyes and felt the warm sun on my face. "That is unfortunate," I said evenly. "Mom," Maya said, suspicious. "You would not happen to know anything about those medical records, would you?" "Your father's medical history is his business," I said truthfully. "If he chose not to share important information with his fiancée, that is between them." That evening, I sat on the front porch with Langston and Maya, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the sky turn gold. Darius was somewhere across town, probably standing in an empty hall, surrounded by centerpieces no one would see and a future that had evaporated like morning mist. Meanwhile, we were exactly where we belonged, in the home he tried to give away, building new memories on the foundation of the old ones. Months passed. The divorce finalized. The house became truly mine in ways that went beyond paperwork. I repainted the living room a soft sage, hung artwork I chose, and converted Darius's old office into a reading nook filled with plants and light. My mornings were coffee on the back porch, 20 minutes of yoga in the sunroom, then whatever the day brought. On Wednesdays, I volunteered at the women's shelter downtown, helping others navigate the tangle of starting over. Malcolm and I occasionally met for coffee to discuss books or local politics. Our professional relationship had ended with the case, but an easy friendship remained. He had never remarried after his own divorce years ago. We did not define anything. We did not rush anything. There was possibility in the quiet. Darius's story took a different trajectory. After the wedding debacle, he spiraled in ways that might once have concerned me. He lost his job 3 months later, officially restructuring, but everyone knew reliability was part of the calculation. His attempts to rebuild with Kiana failed again when she moved to Arizona with her children and a new boyfriend, leaving no forwarding address. I heard through Langston that Darius was working as a freelance consultant, living in a studio apartment, driving a 10-year-old sedan. The man who had once commanded boardrooms was learning what it meant to start over at 52 with nothing but his pride. The most surprising development came last month. Darius called me directly for the first time since the divorce. His voice was smaller than I had ever heard it. "Imani," he said, "I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I need to know. Will you be at Langston's engagement party?" The question caught me off guard. "Of course I will. He is my son. I want to come too," he said, "but I will not if it makes you uncomfortable. I would like to try to rebuild something with them, if that is possible." I looked out at the garden where his golf clubs used to live and considered my response. The woman I had been a year ago might have used the moment to deliver one final blow. The woman I had become did not need his suffering to validate my peace. "Langston and Maya are adults," I said. "Their relationships with you are their choice. I will not be the reason you cannot try." The engagement party arrived with perfect autumn weather, crisp air, clear blue sky. I chose a navy dress that made me feel confident without trying too hard, paired it with the pearl earrings my mother had given me, and drove to the country club with the windows down. Langston looked radiant in a charcoal suit. Serena glowed beside him in a dress the color of champagne. They moved through the crowd like people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Darius arrived halfway through the cocktail hour, standing uncertainly in the doorway. He had lost weight, more gray threaded his hair. When Langston spotted him, I watched my son's face carefully. What I saw surprised me. Not forgiveness, but something softer than raw anger. Langston approached him with Serena, and they spoke quietly for several minutes before Maya joined them. My children were gracious but not effusive, polite but not warm. Darius would have to earn his way back, one conversation at a time. There were no guarantees. As evenings settled, I found myself on the terrace overlooking the golf course where Darius used to spend his Saturdays. The irony was not lost on me. I was claiming space in a world he once dominated. While he stood inside trying to rebuild bridges, he burned for someone who never really knew him. Malcolm appeared beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. "How are you holding up?" he asked. I considered the question. "Good," I said. "Really, genuinely good." Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see Langston and Serena cutting their engagement cake, while Maya took photographs and Darius stood slightly apart, uncertain of his place but grateful to be included at all. This was my new life. Not perfect, but honest. Not without challenges, but built on a foundation of my own choosing. I had learned that sometimes the best revenge is not destruction but reconstruction. Not tearing down the person who hurt you, but building something better from the pieces they left behind. The woman who had sat at that Thanksgiving table had been afraid of losing everything. The woman on this terrace understood that sometimes losing everything is just another way of saying you are finally free to choose what comes next. And what came next felt like possibility, bright with promise and entirely my own. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.